A house for €1, a government check for $30,000 just for moving to a new address, €100,000 in renovation grants because a mountain town wants you to breathe life into an empty building, and a tech accelerator that hands you up to $100,000 in equity-free cash. No stake in your company, no repayment required, just for showing up with a startup idea and a valid passport. These are not internet rumors. These are active government programs operating in 2026, and Americans are eligible for most of them. Here is the truth nobody in the financial planning industry wants to say out loud. Some countries are so worried about population decline, economic stagnation, and the departure of their working-age residents that they are now actively paying people to move there. Not just welcoming them with a visa, paying them in cash, in property grants, in decade-long tax breaks worth tens of thousands of dollars. The competition for new residents has gotten intense enough that the incentives now rival what some American states pay to attract corporations. Today, we're breaking down 8 countries that are actively paying Americans to move there in 2026, what the program actually offers, what it costs to qualify, and the catch that can turn a great deal into a frustrating one if you skip the fine print. We'll save the most generous single cash offer on this entire list for last. Let's start at the bottom. First on the list is Barbados. The island launched its Welcome Stamp program in 2020, and while it is not a traditional cash grant, what it offers remote workers is arguably more financially valuable: a legal framework to live and work in a zero local income tax environment, with approvals in as few as 7 business days, for a flat application fee of $2,000 for an individual or $3,000 for a family. The income requirement is $50,000 a year from foreign sources. If you earn that from a remote job or a business based in the United States, you owe nothing to the Barbadian tax authorities on that income for the duration of your stay. For a remote worker earning $80,000 a year, that zero tax environment is worth approximately $14,000 compared to what they would pay in a higher tax American state. The program has been renewed by the Barbadian cabinet through at least December 31st, 2026. Barbados is English-speaking, sits 3.5 hours by direct flight from New York, offers reliable 100 megabit per second fiber internet, and maintains one of the most politically stable environments in the Caribbean. The Welcome Stamp is renewable annually and comes with no minimum physical presence requirement beyond living there. The pathway to longer-term residency is also available for those who decide to stay. The income threshold is the only real barrier. $50,000 a year is not entry-level, and the program is designed for established remote professionals rather than entry-level earners. But for remote workers already earning above that threshold, paying $2,000 to legally live in a tropical zero-tax environment for a year is one of the clearest financial decisions on this list. The next country doesn't ask for income at all. It asks for a good idea, and then it funds it. Our next country might surprise you. Chile. While most relocation incentive programs around the world target retirees or remote workers, Chile's Startup Chile program goes after entrepreneurs, and it pays them directly to come. The program offers equity-free grants ranging from $15,000 for early-stage companies to $100,000 for growth-stage businesses, along with a 2-year startup work visa with all the bureaucratic paperwork handled by the program itself. No equity is taken from your company. No repayment is required as long as you fulfill the program obligations, which include a substantive stay in Chile to build your business there. Applications run quarterly. The big cohort application window for late 2026 closes in November. Projects from any industry and founders from any nationality are eligible, including Americans. Chile's capital, Santiago, has European-caliber infrastructure by Latin American standards, strong internet, modern transit, excellent private health care, and a cost of living significantly below comparable cities in the United States. Chile also has a tax treaty with the United States, which helps manage the double filing obligations American citizens always face when living abroad. The competitive catch is real. Not every application gets funded. The program runs a genuine evaluation process, and weaker proposals do not advance. But for Americans with a startup concept at any stage of development, from an early idea to a product with initial revenue, Startup Chile is one of the only government programs on Earth offering 6-figure grants without asking for a stake in your company or a path to repayment. Chile's Santiago is also one of the safest and most livable capital cities in South America, with a reliable legal system, a growing startup ecosystem, and infrastructure that consistently impresses first-time visitors from the United States. The country coming up next doesn't require you to build a business at all. It just needs you to commit to renovating an old building. Moving up the list, we come to Ireland. Ireland is quietly one of the most aggressive countries in Europe when it comes to attracting people to fill empty housing, and the financial vehicle it has chosen is genuinely large. The Vacant Property Refurbishment Grant offers up to 70,000 euros, roughly $76,000, to anyone willing to buy and renovate a vacant or derelict property and make it their primary residence. For properties on offshore islands facing the worst population pressures, the maximum grant climbs to 84,000 euros. Ireland faces a severe housing shortage, and this program is a direct government response to the thousands of empty buildings sitting in rural towns and coastal communities across the country. The grant covers renovation costs and is paid after the work is completed, which means you need the upfront capital to fund the project before reimbursement arrives. The requirement is straightforward. The property must have been vacant for at least 2 years. You must apply before purchasing, and the renovated property must serve as your primary residence. American citizens can qualify for Irish residency through several pathways once legally established in the country. Ireland is English-speaking, has a substantial American expat community, direct transatlantic flights, and sits within the European Union, giving full access to the Schengen travel area. The grant does come with complexity. Irish renovation costs are high, skilled contractors are in high demand, and bureaucratic timelines can extend. But for an American willing to commit to a rural Irish property project, the government is putting up to $76,000 toward making that property livable. Ireland's natural landscape, with dramatic coastlines, green valleys, and historic castles, adds a quality of life dimension that is difficult to put a price on, and the country's welcoming attitude toward American visitors and residents is well established. The next country on this list takes a different approach, a lump sum cash grant and a flat tax deal that together make for one of the most compelling financial relocation packages in Europe. The next one is where things start to get interesting: Greece. Greece runs a national program that has granted up to 10,000 euros to individuals willing to move to shrinking rural regions, particularly targeting essential workers and people willing to plant roots in depopulating towns. But the larger and more powerful incentive for Americans moving to Greece in 2026 is the country's flat tax program for new residents. Anyone who transfers their tax residency to Greece and has not been a Greek tax resident in the previous 5 years can qualify for a flat 7% tax rate on all foreign source income for up to 15 years. For perspective, Greece's standard top marginal income tax rate is 44%. An American retiree collecting $60,000 a year in Social Security and pension income could, under specific circumstances, have that income assessed at 7% in Greece rather than the country's standard rates. That is a difference worth tens of thousands of dollars over the 15-year window. Combined with the Golden Visa program, which grants residency for property purchases starting at 250,000 euros in many regions, Greece has assembled a package of financial incentives that is increasingly hard to ignore. The cash grant for rural resettlement is modest compared to some entries on this list, but the 15-year flat tax is worth real money over a decade and a half. Greece's cost of living is significantly below Western European averages. Private health care is accessible and affordable. English is a required second language in Greek schools, and the country offers more than 250 days of sunshine a year, a Mediterranean coastline, and a quality of life that has been attracting retirees from across the world for generations. The country coming up next is offering something older, more dramatic, and more specifically designed for retirees. Now we're getting near the top of this list, and the next entry is Italy, specifically Italy's 7% flat tax for foreign retirees, paired with one of the most talked about property programs in the world. On the property side first, Italy's €1 house program has been running for years across dozens of small towns in the rural south, where abandoned stone buildings are made available for a symbolic €1 on the condition that the buyer renovates within a fixed time frame. The renovation requirement is real and can be expensive. Costs depend heavily on the condition of the structure and local contractor rates. But for Americans looking for an entry point into Italian property ownership, the appeal is clear. Beyond the €1 homes, Trentino in northern Italy offers a separate and genuinely substantial program, up to 100,000 euros in grants for property purchase and renovation, split roughly between 80,000 euros toward renovation costs and 20,000 toward the purchase price for anyone willing to live there for 10 years. That is up to 109,000 United States dollars for committing to a decade in the Italian Alps. On the tax side, Italy's 7% flat tax for foreign retirees is confirmed unchanged under Italy's 2026 budget law. Any retiree who has not been an Italian tax resident for any of the past 5 years can qualify for this flat rate on all foreign source income, applied for 10 consecutive years in eligible towns of under 30,000 residents. That threshold was updated in April 2026 from the previous 20,000. Eligible regions include all of southern Italy, Abruzzo, Basilicata, Calabria, Campania, Molise, Puglia, Sardinia, and Sicily, as well as designated towns in Lazio, Marche, and Umbria. For a retiree collecting $60,000 a year in American pension and Social Security income, the difference between Italy's standard tax rates and the 7% regime represents tens of thousands of dollars saved over a decade. The top two on this list are the ones most Americans haven't heard of, starting with a country that hands you money the moment you sign a lease. Almost at the top now. The second best program on this entire list belongs to Portugal, which runs a scheme called Emprego Interior Mais, roughly translated as Interior Employment Plus. The program offers up to $6,000 as a one-time moving grant for anyone willing to relocate to one of Portugal's officially designated inland regions. Digital nomads are specifically and explicitly eligible, which means American remote workers can qualify without needing to demonstrate local employment or a specific professional credential. The requirement is simple: move to an approved inland region, register your residential address there, and submit your application to the relevant regional authority. Portugal is already one of the most popular destinations in the world for American expats. The D7 passive income visa requires demonstrating around $950 a month in stable income, a threshold many Americans on Social Security can meet. The Emprego Interior Mais grant effectively pays back a portion of your moving costs just for choosing a smaller inland town over Lisbon or Porto. The inland regions of Portugal are dramatically more affordable than the coastal capital. Rents in cities like Coimbra, Viseu, and Guarda run a fraction of what they cost along the coast. Combined with Portugal's nationally rated public healthcare system, ranked 4th in the world, a well-established residency pathway, and a cost of living that is 30 to 50% below most American cities, Portugal's overall package is one of the most practical relocation propositions on this list. The Emprego Interior Mais program does have a budget cap, and the available grant pool is finite. If this is on your radar, the time to investigate and apply is sooner rather than later, and the country at the very top of this countdown offers the single largest direct cash incentive on this entire list, and it's in one of the most beautiful places in Europe. And at the very top of this list, the country with the single most generous direct cash incentive for new residents is Switzerland. Specifically, the village of Albanen in the canton of Valais offers 25,000 Swiss francs per adult, roughly 27,000 United States dollars at current exchange rates, plus 10,000 francs per child, to families willing to buy or build a home in the village and commit to living there for at least 10 years. A couple with 2 children could receive the equivalent of approximately $74,000 just for moving to a Swiss alpine village and setting down real roots. Albanen is not the only Swiss municipality running a similar program. Multiple villages facing rural depopulation have enacted comparable incentives in recent years as part of a broader effort to reverse the trend of younger residents leaving for urban centers. Switzerland is not the easiest country for an American to establish long-term residency in. The country is not a European Union member and operates its own immigration framework, so you will need to qualify through a recognized pathway, such as a work permit, a startup visa, or an entrepreneurial residency before you can access the cash grant. Switzerland's cost of living is also among the highest in Europe, which means the grant, while the largest single payout on this list, offsets only a portion of what you would spend annually. The quality of life in Albanen and similar Swiss villages is extraordinary by any standard. Clean mountain air, world-class schools, political stability, and one of the most efficient public infrastructure systems in the world. For Americans who qualify, who have a legitimate professional or entrepreneurial basis for Swiss residency, who are drawn to raising a family in one of the safest and most stunning environments in Europe, and who can absorb the higher cost of living, Albanen's grant turns relocation from a financial sacrifice into a financial transaction where the Swiss government is your partner. Here's the reality underneath all 8 of these programs. Every country on this list is competing for something the developed world is running short on. People willing to settle somewhere and build a life there. Population decline is real. Rural towns across Europe and Latin America are watching their schools close and their economies contract. Governments that once ignored this problem have started writing checks. The result is a genuine window for Americans that almost no previous generation has seen. A moment when moving abroad does not just save you money on living costs, but when foreign governments are actively funding the move. None of these programs are permanent. Barbados has extended through December 2026. Italy's 7% regime is confirmed for the current tax year. Chile runs quarterly cohorts with competitive selection. Portugal's inland grant has a budget cap. Rules change and windows open and close. If something on this list matches your situation, whether that is a startup ready for capital, a retirement income looking for a decade-long tax break, or a remote salary that deserves a better lifestyle, the time to investigate is now. Verify the current requirements, talk to an immigration attorney, and map your specific numbers before making any decisions. What you're looking at is a real financial opportunity, one that a growing number of Americans are already walking through.